All right, hello. So this month is going to be extra special. We are going to be talking about enterprise architecture with JavaScript using static web apps and Azure services. And I have my friend Natalia here, who's going to talk to
Hey.
us about that.
Hi, Matt.
And so,
How are you?
great, great. You want to do a quick little intro?
Yeah, I work in the end-to-end team with developer tools and developer experiences, and I focus on JavaScript or services where you can deploy JavaScript to, and the
Nice.
tools to help you. That's
Yeah,
right.
big fan, big fan of you and your team. So thanks for joining. I do want to show one other thing. I want to do just show something that we recently shipped in static web apps. In case people want to go and check that out, I'm gonna just add my screen super quick. So within the last oh boy, I'm not even sure when this actually made it into production, but we shipped the ability to split traffic between your environments. So if you go into your environments tab, you will now see this lovely traffic splitting UI where you can
Wow.
add, yeah, you can add different environments and control how much traffic goes between those. This is part of an effort to be able to do like the test in production kind of thing. Also, you can set up some A/B testing kind of
Cool.
scenario with this as well if you want to be able to split branches, that kind of thing. But yeah, so new feature just landed. We have another one that will play nicely into this. I mentioned like the A/B testing scenario. We have another feature snippets that'll be shipping here within the next couple of weeks that'll complete that a little bit better. But in the meantime, you can go and incrementally roll out your changes for environments.
That's so cool. You're always releasing new stuff. It's like every month there is there is some news from the static web apps team, and yeah, that's great. That's amazing. Are you gonna be showing another one today?
Oh
Or
no, that
oh
was it.
yeah.
The rest, it's all
Okay.
you
Okay.
now.
Yeah, so maybe we show my slides, although I'm not controlling them this time. I don't know if Matt is or Haley who is uh, well, yeah,
Yeah, Haley
there
is
you
actually
go.
controlling the slides.
Yeah,
She's hidden,
no,
but
Haley, go back. Yeah, so because you are always, yeah, we want to show the JavaScript Developer Hub banner, which is that yellow one before number one. That's right. Thank you so much. I had some technical issues and I couldn't show my screen, and then Haley is helping us with this. Yeah, because we're always releasing new stuff, and because we have so many services, we have so many tools. Our ecosystem at Microsoft, when it comes to, well, multiple languages, but for JavaScript, the one we are focusing on today, we're always releasing new stuff. So of course we need to show developers how to work with these tools, how to effectively deploy their applications to Azure, whatever the service is. And this is why we have this JavaScript Developer Hub with resources, with tutorials, with links to learn modules, to a lot of content that, of course, will keep you up to date with the with everything you can do in Azure with JavaScript. And so bookmark the URL, that's HTTPS. You can use that long one, developer.microsoft.com/JavaScript, or a shorter one is aka.ms/JS. And this is how you access all these amazing trainings, video series, product releases, and a lot more. Yeah. Now we can
you got
go
a
to
good aka.ms link with that JS. I'm impressed.
yeah, that's a short one, and everyone remembers it. So we decided to make it real. And yeah, as you mentioned, Matt, we wanted to talk about our enterprise architecture, because many times when we talk about static web apps, people get the idea that it's only about smaller apps like static applications, and it is. You can effectively deploy whatever you want that you build with JavaScript to static web apps. But you can also do a lot more. You can have a backend. You can connect to containerized services. You can connect to databases. You can have application insights. There is so much. The whole ecosystem is quite complex, and so that's great because it gives us more opportunities to build whatever our creativity and business requirements demand. But it's a little bit like this popular draw a horse meme, right? We have lots of content teaching us the fundamentals of how to do perhaps smaller things, concepts, how-tos, as if they were Lego blocks. But then when we go to an enterprise grade sample, that's the time when we put those Lego blocks together, and that's hard, right? So we cannot build those complex solutions without a map or a paved path that tells you how to do this on Azure, following best practices also. And one way is to get the manual step-by-step tutorial, and the other way is to have a complete example you can learn from, and you can then look at each tiny part or each scenario, as we call it, and deconstruct it. And by taking it apart, you also learn. So you can go the road of, I'm going to be building incrementally until I get to a much larger application or architecture, or you can grab the whole architecture sample and start breaking it apart and understanding how it works. And this is what we want to do with this sample that we're going to be talking about today. Which takes us to the next slide. With the magic of Haley. And that's the Contoso real estate sample. Have you had the chance to take a look at it, Matt, recently?
Yeah, I have. There's a lot. There's a lot going on. So I'm actually really looking forward to getting the walkthrough myself.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack when it comes to the Contoso real estate app, because we wanted to showcase everything, every service, again, every tool, every tiny piece, every Lego block, like we mentioned, that makes part, or it's a part of this architecture. And as we mentioned before, you can think of it as a paved path for developers to explore, to understand how things connect to one another. And how do we go from zero, from not having anything, to delivering this, or provisioning and deploying this large application? Well, we go through 4 stages that we have defined. That's precisely define or design the prioritized scenarios. Then we develop the architecture with composability in mind in this case, because we are composing, again, different parts. Then we deploy the solution using cloud-native technologies in Azure, serverless, most of them. And that allows us to deliver a seamless developer experience with best practices on top of what we know as the well-architected framework for cloud solutions. So we follow, again, best practices from the design, the specification of APIs, the development, the integration with multiple services, and finally the delivery and even the observability of the solution once it is deployed to the cloud, to Azure in this case.
Got it.
And yeah, this is the main reason why the Contoso real estate sample exists today.
Yeah, especially coming in on static web apps, like something that I know I myself have hit on occasion is you come into static web apps, it's very like self-contained and very guided and opinionated, and then you want to start doing more stuff. You get into the land of like infinite customization, and it just becomes completely overwhelming. That's like
absolutely, yeah, absolutely. And for everyone that has worked in enterprise at one point or another, we know that we often come across requirements that may not have been contemplated when designing the service, right? So we always try to make it easy for developers to find a way to deliver a solution, right? That satisfies those requirements that they may have. So it may feel like everything is opinionated, like you said, and that you have to do it in one exact way. And that's true if you really can deliver your solution with those constraints. But when you need to achieve more, we also have those hatches through which we can connect to more things and do a lot more.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sure.
I call them, I always like the hatch analogy, because you are like in this container, but then there are these, these connectors to the outside world or to another service that you can go through and wire things up, and then and then achieve what you really need to achieve. Yeah. So we have these amazing illustrations also by Nitya in our in the developer advocacy team that help you also understand how to go from, again, designing to delivering an application of this massive scale. Yeah. Haley. Wow. I love it. I don't want to go and say next slide, right? Because next slide is like, no, I want to just ask Haley, please show us what's next. Yeah.
But now you
so
said
this
it. You
is
said next slide now.
no. We're gonna scratch that. Yeah. So this is the whole application diagram, and now we have like these squares that delimit each one of the scenarios, right? And so we can see that we have a scenario that is building the blog, but when we are building the blog, because again, this is a portal, this is a real estate portal, but enterprise platforms have a lot of let's say views where customers come and do different things. So I imagine, and everyone can imagine, that there is a place where enterprises want to deliver news to their customers or tell them what they're working on, or what customers can expect as new releases, or talk about their business, or there's usually this interactive application, many times in the form of a blogs or news or events. So we have one, and that's the first thing we built. And it's connected to a headless content management system. That headless content.
Let me ask you, Natalia. So you have these steps, right? The blog, the portal, auth, payment. You're kind of building up the app. How is there a way that I can go and grab the architecture and actually like split out those components and kind of test them and work with them?
Absolutely. We're going to go through how we go and grab actually the repo and work with it, because it's published, it's part of the Azure samples. But I wanted to show a little bit the design phase that we described before, when we go first through that design stage where we want to conceptualize and we want to say, okay, we want to have a blog to communicate with customers. And for that, we're going to be needing a content management system. What if that content management system also served content to other parts of the application? So we're going to containerize it. We put it in a container, like in this case, an Azure Container Apps. That is a serverless service. We don't have to worry about orchestrating containers, about most of the things we need to worry when we are owning the containers, right? We don't really own the containers. We package them and then deploy them to the, or we own the container. That wasn't the right way to put it. We just don't need to worry about the infrastructure maintenance, right? So
the part that nobody wants to do.
Containerize. Yeah, exactly. The part that nobody wants to do, particularly when you have multiple containers, right? And you have to make sure that they all work in coordination. And so we deploy our containerized application, our service. In this case, we have one container for the content management system server, and another one for the blog application. And in the same scenario, we have also, of course, created a blob storage for the static assets and a Azure database for PostgreSQL in this case. And these two storage services are going to be delivering content or data to the whole composable scenario architecture in this case. And this takes us to the next scenario, which is, okay, now we have this, we have the content management system, we have the database, and we have the storage for assets. Let's build the portal. And the portal, it's an Angular application in the latest version of Angular, using the latest releases as well. And it's deployed to static web apps. And then we have, as we can see, additional scenarios. We have a second database where we store events and user information or data. We have, of course, a key vault for our secrets. We have an API management layer to route the most critical service, which is another scenario that's a payment service. And we have an events grid to publish and let other parts of the system subscribe to events that may be published from the databases. And that conforms the whole enterprise architecture. And again, as a bonus, we have a search capability that is being built today that features OpenAI. So it's an intelligent kind of search with natural language and all this amazing stuff that we are recently hearing about. But I think we want to focus on the static web apps scenario,
naturally.
right? Yeah. So if we go to the next slide, this is what you were asking. How do we access this? How do we see it in action? Because actually, you can build this application in code spaces today, have it all working. Like, oh, my computer went to sleep. That was strange. Am I still here?
yeah, we can still see and hear you.
That was really, really weird. Yeah, so you can use the QR, or you can go to aka.ms/contoso-real-estate-github, and then you can check out the repo. You can fork it. You can build the application in code spaces. It's going to build the whole thing, right? Not only the static web apps. The whole application is going to be built. And then you can contribute, because this is an open source project, right? So anything that comes to mind that you would like to play with, but at the same time you have the code, and you can even, we're going to be talking about this in a little bit, you can even deploy it to Azure with just one command using one of our favorite tools, the Azure Developer CLI, right? So this is, I hope we see many more forks after this. And so, Haley, if we go to the next slide, we see that, again, we wanted to feature in this architecture what we call the hero services for serverless and for JavaScript. These are the services that we know JavaScript developers prefer, and that helps them build their applications, static web apps, obviously, Azure Functions, container apps, and Cosmos DB as a favorite database, because it features the document model that is very, very intuitive for JavaScript developers, because of how it delivers, how it stores and delivers data in JSON format. Right. Matt, you have a question.
So when you're So on the front end piece, are you connecting directly to the database? Are you using just function bindings to connect to Cosmos?
That's exactly what we're doing. Let's move to the next slide, and I think I then explain how we brought our own backend. So we have an Azure now we can see the portal only. And of course, there is the scenario one, because we have a dependency on it. Again, the data authoring and delivery comes from the scenario one. So it's a dependency to the whole application and the rest of scenarios.
Yeah, and that's the blog scenario, right?
Yeah, that's a blog scenario. And yes, we have an Azure Functions app that we are linking to our static web app with an inbuilt feature. So we can, I think you can describe this much better, but I think it's so easy to just go to the APIs link in the console or the settings of the application. Well, it's not the settings of the application, but it's in the menu where you manage your static web apps deployment, and you go to API, go to link, and then you connect it or link it to any endpoint coming from that Azure Functions application. And this is exactly what we're doing. We have over 12 endpoints because, of course, we do a lot of stuff. We publish the listings. We have the users or the users have the ability to favorite them, to book them, and all those things are done through these endpoints in the Azure function. And we also chose static web apps because it offers us well, not only this enhanced web hosting with all these capabilities, but the ability to authenticate users very easily with this file-based configuration. It's really, really easy out of the box. That's why it's called Easy Out. And it also has a local server emulator that we use inside of the code spaces to start this whole application. And we use the capabilities of the manage API, which means that if you have a function in a folder called /API inside of your static web apps application, it's going to be managed for you. And that means that you don't have to worry about cores, you don't have to worry about a lot of things that typically make life very difficult for developers, especially in a local environment, right?
Yeah, we did do another stand up. I don't remember which one. It's been a couple of months ago that we talked about that local development experience, and we did kind of touch on that local server emulation for like authentication and running front end, back end, all that stuff. So yeah, that's documented in one of these videos a couple back. The other thing I did want to point out, like you said, this is open source. One of the things that we on the Static Web Apps team launched was the database connections, free open source contribution ideas. If anybody's interested in seeing what it takes to move this from like those functions bindings directly to the database connection. I know maybe it's a little early to be thinking about Hacktoberfest or whatever, if they still do that, but that would be a fun thing to work on.
Yeah, I think it's fun to work on open source all year round, but that's a great point. They can start designing because they may want to follow the same path that we follow: design, develop, and then deliver. But we have another event going on that I'm going to be speaking in a moment about right now and until the 31st of August. We have a hackathon called Hack Together, and it's specifically focused on enhancing this portal app. We are receiving contributions every day right now, we're very, very busy at the moment, but we're very happy because this is what open source is about, right? And how we also can get feedback from our customers and from developers working with JavaScript and deploying to static web apps on what, I don't know, what they found amazing, what they wish it was a little bit different, how can they get help from us. So we invite everybody to collaborate and contribute. So maybe we go
Perfect timing.
to, maybe we go to the next slide.
Yeah, that just started, right? That was like 2 days ago that it started. Is that right?
It started on the 16th, actually,
Okay.
but
Oh
yeah,
wow,
it
that feels
feels
like a
like it
while.
was yesterday, last week. And it's going to last for another week. But yeah, it's been, there's a lot of traffic and contributions, and it's really amazing. Real great community working on that, on this. Many student ambassadors and other people from the Azure community. So yes, again, we chose static web apps for those features that we just named. Also, the emulator has emulation for authentication, which makes it super easy to test anything that is behind the guard or that needs to be restricted to authenticated users. And we also chose it because of of course, the CI/CD integrations, um, the ability to just put a GitHub action and connect your repo to static web apps and deploy continuously. And then what we mentioned also before, the ability to provision and deploy with the Azure Developer CLI. It's a CLI tool that you can basically use to deploy a declarative version of your infrastructure, like you use Bicep, our DSL, our domain-specific language, for infrastructure as code that has access to all the APIs of static web apps and other services of Azure, of course, and allows you to deploy in this case, the whole architecture. But you can take just the parts that you want to deploy and just extract that from the rest of the template. It's template based, and run ACD up, and you will see that your application gets built. If it needs secrets and you don't pass them to the configuration files, they will get generated. So everything gets generated and in place, so you can build the application, you can pass whatever environment variables you need to Azure, and you can deploy it to a provisioned infrastructure. Again, my computer went to sleep, and this is super
Yeah,
strange. I've never seen this
the
happen while I'm on a stream.
the developer
Okay.
CLI is something that we haven't really brought up in here, but that's one of those ones that's on my list to talk
Okay.
about and do some demos of. So maybe that'll be here pretty soon. We may get Savannah to come and hang out.
Yeah, definitely. Savannah in my team, she's the one to bring in and speak about all this great stuff you can do with the Azure Developer CLI. You can generate also the GitHub actions directly from the Azure Developer CLI. So it's really a very complete operational tool that you need to, it should be in everyone's belt to work with Azure.
For sure.
So the next slide is, in the next slide, I am describing again, we also wanted to leverage this amazing bring your own functions, bring your own backend feature that we described a little bit earlier today. All those QRs, they take you to tutorials or learn modules, so you can start experimenting with these features if you haven't. And next slide. Before my computer goes to sleep. And this is what we were talking about earlier. How can we connect to databases in a more, how would you call it, effective, in a simpler way, even, because
Simpler.
everything is, in a simpler way, because everything is designed So the authentication to the database, all those things that are usually complicated, right?
Yeah. Well,
Which is
that and just
authenticate.
it's
Yeah.
just less code you have to maintain too, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Less maintenance, less headaches in general. Yeah. So the authentication and the schema, right? You can declare what type of data, or can you tell us a little bit about this, Matt? What is
What
exactly you
the
get from the data API builder?
Sure, yeah. So that's something we did. Boy, I think that was the May edition. We talked about database connections.
Yeah.
Database connections and data API builder are synonymous. Um, yeah, it's essentially you drop your config file in, you point to your database that you want to connect to, and magic happens. You get a REST API, you get a GraphQL API. You can run those queries, get that data directly from the database. The same kind of um, fancy shiny things that you get from the linked backends and managed APIs is no cores, no setup of any of that stuff. Uh, I hate to say it, but like it just works. It's just kind of magic.
It just
Uh,
works.
you define in your config basically like what data you want to bring back, what the authorization looks like. You set up roles that works with the built-in static web apps authentication. So it's super complete. You can do as little as you want with just like drop a config in and say CRUD all of these things, all the way up to limit it to specific users with specific roles, only show this, only enable GraphQL, that kind of thing. But at that point, it
That's
becomes just managing config files, no code, nothing like that.
And it's great because sometimes you're so busy building other features that you don't want to struggle with database connections, right? So we have multiple endpoints again in the database, in the application, in the portal. And we recently migrated from the version 3 to the version 4 of the Node.js programming model. That's a pull request that is about to get merged. We would love to see contributions from the community on one or two of those endpoints migrated to Data API Builder. It would be amazing. The database is already in place, so it's more or less playing, because this is a playground as well, and learning and contributing. Yeah,
Like that.
that's amazing. So again, if you want to do it in the context of the hackathon that is going on right now, that's taking place right now, you can go to aka.ms/JavaScript on Azure. That's our JavaScript main page on Learn portal. But there is a link to the hackathon, or you can also use the QR code to read the blog post that tells you all about the hackathon, how to participate, what you get. You get a contributor's badge, and just have fun with us and with the with static web apps as well.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, thank you. I really appreciate you coming and walking through that. I do see a question, Alex. So unfortunately, I don't have a super good answer for you. It is coming soon. So the question is, I'll just do the thing. Thank you, Haley. So we are working on that. That is, it's unrelated to the Contoso real estate app, but we're working on getting that out of preview and into GA. Should be fairly soon, but it's happening.
And that's
Sorry,
another
sorry for like
opportunity.
not
Yeah.
clear answer.
No. That's another opportunity for a migration, because we have now SSR on the container where the blog is at. The blog is a hybrid Next.js application. And if we want to see it working on static web apps when this is released, that's another opportunity for contribution.
Man, that would be a really fun one. Yeah, it's running on container apps now, right?
Yeah.
Get that as. I might.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm thinking about maybe.
I ignited something in you. I get you thinking. Okay.
Yeah, I don't get to
Yeah.
do enough fun stuff like that. So
Yeah. So thank you so much for having me here, promoting the Contoso real estate sample.
well, thank you. Thank you for coming and talking about it. Also, thanks, Haley, for running the slides. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you, Haley.
If you have any additional questions or anything, you can drop them in the chat. I'll continue to keep an eye on it throughout the day, just to see if anything comes up. Also, Natalia, you want to tell people where they can reach you?
Yeah, they can reach me on GitHub at Amphibia Creativa. That's a little bit maybe hard to press, but not you, just Natalia Bendito on GitHub, and you're gonna find me, or Twitter, same handle. Yeah, I think it's here, right? Amphibia Creativa.
Yeah.
It's
under your
on
picture.
screen. Yeah, there you go.
So same thing on GitHub and Twitter.
Twitter and yeah, LinkedIn, everywhere. That's my handle. Thank you so much.
Excellent. Thank you.
Bye-bye.